We can talk about Bernie Sanders all we want. The bottom line is we're wasting our time. And I'll tell you why. Because apparently Glenn Beck has identified someone who has, yes, okay, Bernie Sanders can advocate for a better society. Look, why bother when there's someone in the race who we've barely even talked about who has mystical powers, ladies and gentlemen. Here's Glenn Beck espousing the virtue of a guy who I almost totally forgot was alive and who'll probably be a Republican presidential candidate, Rick Perry.
And we should be clear, we haven't really talked about this, but both of these ridiculous torrential downpours and flooding and the preceding drought, both the fault of global warming.
Thank you for bringing that up. Thank you.
We have not talked about it.
Thank you.
I mean, the drought, which was blamed on global warming incessantly, now all the rain is also being blamed on global.
Pause. Now, I think most people over the age of like 12, and I do mean that because my daughter's like almost 9 or 10, and she, I think, understands how weather works.
I think you're being generous with your age.
Okay, but let me just benefit of the doubt. Can understand the fact that climate change creates extreme weather patterns. So droughts and floods. And in fact, when you have a drought and the ground is all the water evaporates, you're more likely to get floods when it rains really hard because the ground doesn't absorb the water as well.
As we've always said, no matter what happens.
We're officially way out of that drought. We're way out of that drought. We started digging our way out of that drought about 3 years ago, but that's definitely over. I was up in the farm country, up in Idaho this last weekend, and it was a sloppy mess up there. And they had just 5 weeks ago, they had a fast for rain because they were in a drought. And it started raining 5 weeks ago.
That's interesting.
It didn't stop.
Because if Rick Perry announces that he's running for president, which is expected, of course, he, in 2012, I think it was, or 2011, was praying for rain here. Will he get blamed for the success of the rain and the flooding?
That we started ending that drought with that fast. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Yeah. And he
was mocked for it anyway.
He was mocked for it, and he went ahead and did it. And that was the beginning of the end of the drought. I mean, we started having rain right after that. And this state was a desert.
Yeah, let me make it clear. He's about to be mocked again. If Rick Perry has the ability, here's what I would like to propose, okay? And I do this in the spirit of the Glenn Beck Show, which is really about bringing people together. Rick Perry has the ability to pray, and I guess presumably get God to make it rain. I'm going to concede that I'm a bit of a heathen here, and so I don't know how it works. I just know medicine man Rick Perry with 4 eyes, 2 eyes, and then another set of 2 eyes. Rick Perry makes it rain by praying to God. Here's what I think Rick Perry should do, because I can see how contentious all of this global warming thing is. And I can see how confusing it is for these guys. The idea that a drought could make things evaporate, and then the rain and the flooding. So here's what I want to suggest. And I don't want to be facile about this. It's not Rick Perry's going to end global warming because, of course, these guys don't believe in global warming. So this is what I want to do. That we start a petition to get Rick Perry to pray for global warming. Okay? To bring about global warming so there is no dispute whether or not it exists. Of course it exists. Rick Perry prayed for it, and it showed up. But then, once we're all on the same page that global warming exists because Rick Perry has prayed for it, and it gets here, then he does a head fake on God and prays to get rid of it. So I think, based upon what we understand, we're talking about like a 5 to 6 year plan. Perry starts to pray now for global warming. It comes in, everybody accepts that it is real and it exists. And then He turns around, he prays again to get rid of it. Global warming, done, check off, boom. And I think just for coming up with the idea, perhaps I should be named his vice president. So, there you go.
That would definitely be a demo balancing ticket there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The notion of you and Rick Perry campaigning together is like the mother load of
it'd be
like
just
bad
basically like
comedy movies.
Just like two white guys with glasses, darker hair.
And then that's about it.
That's about it.
Yep.
Why does Rick Perry even have to campaign, though? He should just pray to become the president.
It's true.
Well, his prayers might conflict with other prayers at that point, and it gets more complicated.
Oh, so, all right. Well, we have to make sure that nobody else is praying for or against global warming when he does it, so that his goes to right to the top of the. That's
right.
what must have been happening. Nobody was praying for it to not rain or rain in Texas when he was it. So his prayer shows up.
He had an open prayer
It's just like, how can you avoid it? God's just coming in. It's just like,
that's why you
look how
gotta
prominent
watch out.
Rick Perry's prayer is today.
I could confirm that this is how prayers work. I went to Catholic school. This is how
God's like, believe me, no one more than me would love to ignore Rick Perry's prayers. I mean, my God, no pun intended. That guy is a complete moron. But look, if nobody else is going to come forward with a counter prayer, I would enjoy to keep the drought going. I'm going to have to respond. Anyone? Please. Bueller. The presidential election is going to be great. Ben Carson, no one prays like that guy. Jesus.